How is everybody today? It is time for another episode of Two Pastors and a Guest. I'm your host, Brian Callies with Callies Ministries. We have my co-host with me, the Pastor Charles Matthews. How you doing, brother? Oh, got your mute on, buddy.
Thanks. You got me this time.
I got you.
You got me. God is so good. It's just a blessing to be in the land of the dying, as I said earlier, working our way to the land of the living.
Oh, look at you getting all serious on us right off the bat. So it is Friday. Welcome everybody to the show. And we have a really cool, awesome little topic tonight. And we're going to be talking about, the name of the topic is When We All Get Together, What a Time. And the focus of that is going to be about, well, how do we get back to all this, how do we get back to church, and how do we get back to a routine of, going into a building for church, and what do we do, and where's the ideas, and what's the safe way of going about it, and things like that. And so we have an amazing guest with us, a good friend. He's actually somebody I've known for quite a while now through Church Developers Network and just all kinds of stuff. And he's with Church Health. His name is Sterling McNeal, and amazing guy, full of knowledge. And we're just really blessed and honored to have you. Welcome, Sterling.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Yeah, I was trying to think of how long we've known each other, and it's been over a decade. I know that. So
probably so. Yeah.
It's been a little while. So, excited. So for all the viewers that are new to the show, let me just tell you real quickly about what the show is about. So Two Pastors and a Guest is an outreach of Callies Ministries. And what its job is to have several of us, different guests, different topics each time. And we're just going to sit in a room and we're going to have a real, honest discussion. And so the nickname of our show is Keeping It Real. And the point is, we're going to have a discussion. We may not all agree with everything that we say, but we're going to all come together and just try to see if we can't get one step closer to understanding each other, one step closer to each other. And tonight's got a really interesting topic. There's a little bit of debate around this. So it's great to have somebody who, like Sterling here, who has true knowledge about what the data shows, and what that he's worked with a lot of pastors on this, and to kind of give us something that is more than just his opinion. This is the opinions and the viewpoints of a lot of different inputs and a lot of different viewpoints, let's say. So we're really excited about this tonight. So if you are new, make sure you like the page. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and hit the comment thing if you're on Facebook or on YouTube Live, and we will try to get your questions on the show. So, all right. Well, let's see. It is Friday. Beautiful. Well, it was a little rainy today, but still a beautiful day in my book. We needed some rain.
Rain is beautiful too.
And it looks like Sterling's enjoying the beach out there. So,
we can all have a place that we can desire to be.
Desire to be. I love it. So you're still trying to keep that whole COVID thing, trying to keep safe and be in a protected area and separated and all that. But it looks like, and I'm not by any means the expert that you are on some of these questions, but it looks like from my point of view that they're starting to let go of the reins a little bit. So we've reined us all up to separate houses, and now they're starting to release things. And I've heard, I'm in Tennessee, so Memphis, Tennessee is where I'm at. And the governor, who's in each state, it's a little bit different, but the governor here decided to release a few things. And so we can start to have restaurants are starting to come back together. I know that hairdressers and that kind of stuff are allowed to do some things. And so just from a big overview, what are your thoughts about this, about the whole concept of pulling back and now starting to come back in? What is your kind of global ideas on that?
I think that whenever we start doing that, it needs to be something that's very thoughtful, very calculated, and not to be rushed into, to ensure that you you consider all the possibilities and chances for infection and the infection rate going up and putting people's lives at risk. So that is the first thing, that I think about, personally. And so every municipality and every governmental body has to figure out what their guidelines are for reopening would be and how they would meet that out. What would be the best thing for their community.
And I see that what you just said is kind of in line with what I'm hearing from a lot of the, I think even the president said it's kind of be a balance, if you're going to bring people back, there's a risk involved.
Exactly.
But if you don't bring people back, there's a risk involved. So
exactly.
See how there's not maybe one answer to this whole issue, but we can do things in a smart way and try to make smart steps. Is that kind of what, in a nutshell, we're trying to do?
Yes, and like I said, it's a balancing act, because we've seen the hit in our lives, regarding people getting sick and people dying, affecting our personal lives, affecting families, affecting the hospital industry. A lot of people are being admitted to the hospital and everything, and so on the personal, there's a personal cost there, but then there's an economic cost that is there, where they came out today, 20 million people lost their jobs, the April's job report, and they said the unemployment rate is up to 14.7%. So there is an economic effect that is going on, the economic cost. So millions of people lost their jobs, people not able to pay their bills, people need to be fed. So there is a cost, and so there's a balancing act of what are you going to do? How are you going to come back? And that's a tough decision. That's a tough decision.
I agree, and it's a decision I sure would not want to have to make. Because I think you're looked as a bad guy no matter what decisions you come up with. Somebody's gonna complain about something.
Exactly.
It's just funny though how polar this whole thing is, because I go sometimes and go to places. We were over at Home Depot over the weekend and had to pick up a couple things at Home Depot, and I mean it was just ridiculous how many people are just ignoring every bit of these rules and just acting like there's nothing wrong and just doing their thing. And surely they have the right to do that, but at the same time, I just can't help but think, are you crazy? You have to at least, put on a mask, for crying out. I mean, or if it's not a mask, stay 6 feet apart, do something,
Well, that takes me back to what the Bible says, may be lawful, but not necessarily expedient. You may have the right to do it, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do.
Oh, good words. Clever.
So we have to exercise wisdom and proper judgment.
Yeah, that's the word. And that's the word, Sterling, you just said. I know Brian said earlier, wisdom, which means to be wise. I think Brian was saying that's what he was meaning. He said practice safety, but the fact of the matter is that we definitely have to be wise. When it comes to this situation, because it's affecting everybody, and like you say, it's a do or die, as they said, situation. People losing out if they don't, kind of open things back up. If they open things back up, it's still a big risk, as we just all said, because of the fact of that. And everybody, and watch this, everybody not following the rules and the regulations and the guidelines that's been given, and the instructions, I'll call them, that's been given, which are great instructions, but people don't want to take instructions. They want to take them in a manner like, I'm grown, you can't tell me what to do, I'm grown. But the fact of the matter is that the truth of it is that whether you're grown or not, you know, it ain't got nothing to do with being grown. It have to do with being wise and being respectful toward other people. Even I was in the store earlier, and I had my mask on, and I was standing there in line, and I was, you know, they got the little tape on the floor to kind of give you the little distance, and
Right.
so, this young lady and her son just like right up on me, and so I stepped up some more, you know, and when I realized I'm getting closer to the person in front of me, I said to him, I said, ma'am, I don't mean any harm, and hopefully you won't take this personal. I said, but can we kind of give the distance thing, because it's for our safety. I said, nothing in the negative towards you, but for our safety, you know.
Right.
Kind of looked at me for a moment, and she's like, oh, okay, and then she backed up. But I can tell that she didn't quite like it, but I appreciate that she did respect it. But had no mask on. The son, he looked like maybe about 12, 13 years old. He didn't have on a mask, and I mean, and there was a lot of people in the store. They just have no consideration or concern, I guess, about what's really going on. I guess they're not taking it to the depth to realize that in spite of right now, at this moment, in this point, it's still severely serious, you know, with the fact of you know, that it ain't went nowhere. So the fact of the matter, they haven't even found the cure for it. They keep saying they're going to have one by this time, but watch this. It ain't happened yet. So we got to be more wiser and respectful toward the fact of things. And it's like I was saying the other night, Brian, I'm going to move on. The guy that was in the store, and he wiped his
nose on the person's sleeve.
Right, on the person's sleeve. Things like that, you know. And then they get the woman that went in the store, and then her daughter, the security guard told her daughter, you need on a mask. And so she got mad at him, and they had words. She go home, get her husband and her son, and they go back up there and kill the man. So things like this is things so the thing about, like I say, it's so much turmoil pertaining this thing to where, man, it's sad, you know. So the question is, honestly, with that being said, what do we really do? How do we get back?
Well, I know that Sterling, you come from Church Health, and for those of the viewers that are watching that don't know what Church Health is, can you tell us just quickly what that is?
So we are faith-based, not-for-profit clinic. We're the largest clinic of its kind in the country. We are not dependent upon government funding. So our funding comes from congregations, individuals, and organizations. And we started in 1987. We opened our doors there, and we provide health care for the working uninsured residents of Shelby County, Tennessee. So Memphis and the surrounding 5-6 cities within Shelby County. And so we've been doing it, like I said, going on 33 years now. Our founder, Dr. Scott Morris, is a family medicine practitioner, and he's also a United Methodist pastor. Ministry. So our mission is to reclaim the church's biblical commitment to care for our bodies and spirits. So we have a mandate to care for ourselves. And so we are not just for the body. We don't just care about your physical body and the physical health of the body, but we care about the health of the total person, the total man. And so that's what we're here for. I work in the department called Faith Community Engagement. And so we have hands-on contact, if I would say it like that, with the faith community. And it's not
with
just
gloves on. Yeah, I got you.
It's not just the Christian faith community, but all faith communities.
All faith. Okay.
All faiths. And just to call them to reclaim that commitment that God has given us to care for ourselves, for our bodies. And I see it like this. If you are caring for yourself, total person, then you are better able to be able to carry out the mission that God has given for you in your life. You know,
Wow.
and so, you know, it's important. It's important. We have what we call the model for healthy living, and there are 7 dimensions in the model. And forgive me if I only come up with 6. I'll remember the 7th one. But it's your faith life, it's family and friends, it's your emotion, your medical care, your movement, your nutrition, and there's a 7th one. I'll come up with it in a minute. But those are areas in your life that affect your health, and you would like to have a balance in your life in all of those areas to help to have a balanced life.
Oh, that's smart.
For people of faith, our faith is important to us, and it can affect our health. We know that stress has an effect on the body. It can weaken your body, and it can physical symptoms can be a result of stress in your life. If nothing else, you know, where do you carry stress? You know, it might be in the top of your back. And so if you get stressed over time, you know, you might have some tension there in your back. And so you'll need a massage to help, you know, ease that tension or do something. So all these parts of the model play a part in the total health of the total man.
Awesome. Well, we've got the right man, obviously, for the show. What I had heard in this that was so good that I think will be beneficial for the listeners and the audience. Remember, they're the largest of their kind in the country, and they're not motivated just strictly political stuff, because it's not a government-based facility of any kind. They're completely faith-based and people-based. So what they come up with and the ideas they come up with, the things that they suggest, really come from that place. And so you don't have to worry about it being a government or politically driven message. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Brian, I told you I'll figure out that last one, that last dimension.
Oh, yes.
And it's work. So it's not necessarily what you do for your vocation, you know, to earn your living, but it can. But, you know, it can be from what you do for a living. It can be what you do in your volunteer time. You know, it's just whatever your hands find to do. That plays a part in your health too.
Oh, absolutely. And some of our listeners knows this. You haven't probably heard, but I'm on a new health journey now. So a week ago, I had enough of the doctors telling me that this number was too high, the weight was too high, the blood pressure is starting to go up, all these things. And finally, it was time to do something about it. So we had a show. We actually had 3 health coaches on who combined their efforts to give me a plan so that would help me to get down to a better health journey. So, and we encourage all of our listeners to join us on this health journey. If you hear anything tonight that Sterling might be able to talk to you about that would help you on your health journey, we're just encouraging everybody, take a step towards that health thing. It'll not only make your life happier and better, but it'll make it hopefully a little longer, and you'll be able to enjoy it better. So,
as Pastor Charles was saying earlier, we're dying to live later, and but I wanted to lengthen out that dying part. I don't want it to come too soon.
Amen. You know, it's something that that you have, you know, that knowledge and information that you have, and getting to share it with people. Because like I say, as we see, a lot of people ain't really understanding and taking seriously whatever the case may be, what's going on here. They're allowing themselves to be, I guess, just so uncaring about really the quarantine type a part of it, the part of it that where they don't realize that they are harming not only themselves, they even their family, because even this the fact of the matter that even if they don't have it, they don't know who have it. So when you don't even have a mask on, if you contract it and you go home and you don't know that, then guess what? You have subject your whole family to it.
Mm-hmm.
And or anybody you come in contact with. And it's something that as time go along, people, they like getting so comfortable with it, especially that they open up or have opened up some of the stores and opening up more stores, and especially in certain places, other states. I saw here a few days ago where I think it was in Texas or somewhere, to where they had opened up the shoe stores, and they had a line of people, close to each other, people waiting in line to buy the new Jordans. So you can imagine how that was.
Can you buy them online?
No, right. But see, they did. But you know how it is.
Right.
They online because some people, so their mind is so messed up until I said their priorities are so out of order until they have to be the first one to get them. Right. So I can say, I was the first one to got me a pair of the Jordans. Like, that's important. That's more important than your life. And that's what it's come down to.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, so let's talk about a little bit about some of the ideas that Church Health has come up with. And I don't know how much of that was based on the fact that I know the governor's office put out a faith-based and community initiative, which I haven't dove completely into. It's on May 1st, it looks like it was released, and it's a 5-page thing. But I want to hear first about the clergy response letter that Church Health has put out. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
So back in mid-March, when we started getting really affected by it in our local area here, Dr. Mars convened a group of clergy leaders to come together to decide, okay, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to respond with it? And so
all the way back to March, they
yes,
started. Wow.
All the way back in March. And there was a ecumenical group. You had people from different Christian denominations. You had someone from the Jewish faith. You had an imam from the Muslim faith there, so that we're all saying the same thing of we're going to do something to help protect our members, our congregation, and the broader community. And we're going to come together and work together on the issues. And then Tuesday of last week, the different leaders got together and released a letter as part of that response. And in that, we were saying that we're going to take our time, and be deliberate about opening up our corporate worship again, and about the things that we do and how we go about worshiping and serving and loving people. And we're going to do that and be based off of the science, of what is out there, what's happening in our community, and not necessarily be pushed and driven by data. So originally there were 15 signers of that letter. And then when we posted it and put it out there, there's a way for other clergy to sign on and say that I agree with those tenets and what the letter is saying, and that we're going to move forward with that too. So,
wow.
So that was put out last week.
So for the viewers, I did put that up, and that's you can get to that by churchhealth.org. and it's called the Clergy Response Letter. And they just put it out last Tuesday, right? I just wanted to mention a few of the things that I see as we're committed to work together for these principles, and these are the 4 principles that they have. We will rely on the medical and scientific community as our primary resource for information. So that's great. We will work collaboratively to responsibly care for those who contract COVID-19. Number 3 is we will collaborate to determine when returning to in-person worship is possible. And number 3 is we'll continue to speak up. So obviously you guys have thought about the different stages and that's kind of what I'm hearing, right? We're coming back as stages. Is that what your view is as well?
Yes. And that's part of the plan that the city has put forth, and different phases and different guidelines for each phase.
Now, I know you guys serve larger than Memphis, but this is the Memphis clergy. So this is their version of, you brought all these different faith leaders together to come up with a unified kind of a guideline, I guess, as you'd say, to kind of encourage other churches to follow along with this logic.
And also, it helps when you're able to discuss things and get ideas from others and see different perspectives, because each leadership at each congregation has to make this decision for their congregation. And so, what are the things I need to think about? What are the issues I need to address? How are we going to address it? And yes, pastors and other faith leaders are looked to for a lot of things from their membership, from being counselors to being preachers, to oftentimes to help support them in their daily lives and help encourage them, even to help make decisions regarding their medical care. But everyone is not an expert in everything. So it's good to get some insight from others and some different ideas that's there. It's like, okay, how can we do this? How can I address this issue that facing us? And even though we all have congregations and faith communities, each faith community is faced with different set of issues too. What works for one congregation won't necessarily work for another.
So what is the, generally speaking, actually, let's take a quick commercial break before we get into the heart and the meat of it, of what they're really saying as the next step. What are we supposed to do next? And so, viewers, we've been talking here with Sterling McNeal from Church Health, and talking about now that things are starting to get back to normal, what do we do with church? I mean, do we come back to it like it used to be? How do we start to come back into that world where we're all used to right now, just pretty much online? Most of us are used to online things. And how do we get back safely? So thank you, Sterling, and we will get back to you right after our commercial break, or what we now have is a sponsorship spotlight. So the sponsorship spotlight today is going to be Saving Lost Kids. And let me demonstrate that for you. And Saving Lost Kids is a ministry based, well, it's more of a unleashed, proactive approach to try to prevent missing, exploited, and sex trafficking of children. And it does that from the front end of trying to do prevention, education, and awareness, and trying to stop it all from happening on the front end. So Saving Lost Kids is savinglostkids.org if you want to know more information. Basically, we typically go and do a lot of public events. Charles and I both work with them. Just really believe in the organization as it tries to address that whole topic that most people want to avoid, of missing kids, exploited kids, and sex trafficking. And instead of waiting till all the bad stuff happens, we want to try to prevent it from happening. So that's our goal. That's our hope and our mission. Typically right now we're out there in the public doing a lot of events, doing free child safety IDs. Charles is our main person who does the photography and that kind of thing. And right now we can't do that because of the changes, obviously, that we're not having a lot of public events. So instead, I want to encourage you. We're going to be putting out some new releases on our website and on Facebook for small snippets of training education stuff for your children. Parents, please jump on this and let your children hear and see about these things. But online, we already have a tremendous amount of information. Please check it out. It'll help you and guide you. If there's anything that you having a problem with and you don't see specifically something for your topic, feel free to go ahead and email us, and we'd love to have you. It's savinglostkids.org, and the email address is info at savinglostkids.org, and we will address those completely. Or you feel free to call us 800-308-0607, 800-308-0607, and thank you, Saving Lost Kids. Also, it's a nonprofit, so we operate, we work. They do all this stuff all based on donations. So we would love to have you as a sponsor for Saving Lost Kids. So it's really easy. Just go there and click any of the donate buttons. And a sponsor simply means you're just going to give on a monthly basis. And that would really help us to continue to do our efforts, as we are now one of the leading agencies in prevention. And from what we've determined in the surrounding 7 states. So we need to keep that growing and kind of get that education out there and make the biggest dent we can. So welcome back to the show. 2 pastors and a guest. We have Sterling McNeal with Church Health and my co-host, the Pastor Charles Matthews. And we're talking today about what do we do? How do we get back to church as normal? Or are we going to go back to church as normal? How do we safely do that approach? And we have a great subject expert on there with us today, helping us to get this. So,
Brian, I kind of cringe when you say subject expert. I wouldn't consider myself.
Well, I Church Health rocks, man. Y'all are great. You guys are some of the biggest. So when you grab, what you guys did is grab a bunch of different faith groups, the heads of different faith groups, brought them together so that we can have a very smart kind of a multifaceted view of this thing and how it can be done smartly, wisely, but also spiritually intelligently. Mm-hmm. So, man, you can't knock that, brother. That's that's how I'm going to call you, man, because that's what you are. So let's talk about it a little bit more in depth now. So remember, the topic of the show is to keep it real. So let's be honest about what we think is going to work, what's not going to work. So what are the first steps? All right. So this Sunday, for example, anybody changing anything about this Sunday?
There are some that are you have to change some things. For one, the city came out with some guidelines as part of getting back to business, even for the faith community. And one of the things is there's a limit of 25%, I believe, of the capacity of your building.
So it is allowed to come back to church as normal as long as you keep within these guidelines.
Keep within the guidelines.
I see.
And so those, so each congregation has to look at those guidelines to see how they can best stay within those guidelines so they can come back to worship in that. And 25% is the maximum, but depending on how your congregation, your building, everything is set up, it might be fewer than that. And so it's left up to the individuals to determine, what they can do. But you have to keep that 6-foot clearance, between persons. You want to keep, you can seat family groups together, but you want to keep others separated. You have to think about your entrances, your exits, and so that you can maintain those distances. Continue cleaning, and making sure that you're cleaning and disinfecting, doing it on a regular basis. And so how are you going to do that? So there are a lot of things that needs to be considered when you are opening up. Who can come back? How can you come back? What do you need to shut down or alter? So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
Well, I see that the Tennessee, the governor's office basically made that faith-based and community initiatives thing, the guidance for it. So that's a set of like rules or guidelines, but then we also have something, because we're in the city of Memphis, that we have to adhere to, right? Because obviously the mayor decided that he has his input of guidance and rules, right?
Right.
And so no, go ahead.
Well, you have different guidelines that you need to consider. Like the governor has his guidance. Well, it says 50% capacity. Well, that's okay with the state, but with the city, you have 25% capacity that you have to abide by while we're in this first phase. And then, and everyone says, keep up with the CDC recommendations of how you should do things. So you have to consider all these guidelines and how you can carry them, abide by them.
I see.
I have a question, Brian. I guess someone said. This is something that I guess really concerns me. I was telling Brian earlier. I say, and I'm in agreement, but on another side, I'm kind of like, I got kind of these. I don't want to call them confused feelings, but and I don't necessarily want to call them mixed feelings. But I got what it is that, watch this. You got the different congregations, right? The different denominations, and even with what they're saying, watch this. And everybody operate different. And I guess what I'm saying is that is it making a lot of sense to even allow the churches to come back together when they're so limited? When watch this, we are used to church being going on, being led by the Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. So watch this. Now there's different congregations now that do different things, in different denominations, and even different churches do different things. You got some churches that, like you said, when it comes to the 6 feet thing, some churches they believe in laying on hands of the people and praying for them, and things like that. So with what's being done, I guess with the guidelines, from what I'm hearing, those things are more likely going to have to change, right? Because so I guess, and that reason why I said it, because this is what concerns me about that part of it, is that, man, and don't get me wrong, we could pray off on one another, but there are some people, like I say, that's what they are. They feel that the laying on of hands is a more effective way to them, I guess, getting through to a person, or God working through them to a person. So it's like, it's so many ways. Honestly, it's just me, because we keeping it real. It's almost like saying we got to almost, play church from what we normally allow to happen, because we normally allow the Spirit to lead us. Now we got to allow ourselves to go off of what the guidelines are from what the government is saying and everybody else. So do it. I mean, and I guess I'm actually, because do it make a lot of sense to even allow the churches to even come back and open when they got to, so to speak, pretend to do something that they don't believe in, and they, that they don't normally do. They got to do that at normal. So now it's just like the choir. They got to limit them now to where, most churches, they got a choir. They got to limit them down so they can stay 6 feet apart, because, we got to say, especially, the Baptist church, we got the, in most churches, got a praise team, but the Baptist, we got the, got the alto, the tenor, sopranos, and all that stuff, and then, so it's concerning me, because it's going to be, to me, it's going to be kind of difficult to really even get into the spirit of what you need to get into, because your mind, watch this, your mind is going to be thinking about, well, we got to follow these guidelines. It's hard to get into a praise and worship sincerely and give yourself away to God when you got to be worried about, man, we got to be careful how we do this. How do we deal with that? I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, because that's kind of got me concerned.
Okay, let me give you my personal thoughts and feelings about that. Heading to the sponsorship break, Ryan made mention of how we're going to get back to normal. Mm-hmm. At least for the foreseeable future, we won't be back to normal. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a new normal. So we're in the process of figuring out what is that new normal for us, and how do we carry out our worship and serving and ministering to the people, and within the guidelines and staying true to our beliefs. That will take thoughtful meditation and guidance from God. How do we do that? One thing that is often said, a lot of churches will say, touch your neighbor. Well, it's not necessary that you touch your neighbor. So we have to change from doing that. You may mention the choir. How do you sing, or how do you provide music as a ministry and still abide by the guidelines? It's not to say that it can't be done. It will have to be different, and depend on the makeup of your building, how you normally do things. That will help determine that, or help shape that. But the guidelines, I feel that it's not dictating your worship of God, because that comes from your heart, and we have to prepare ourselves before we come together as a corporate body to worship, prepare ourselves individually for worship, so that when we get there, that we're in the mode of worshiping. And yes, we have to think about the guidelines and staying within those, but our hearts, our spirit is directed and focused on God from the very beginning. Just like, they say, don't shake hands, or even more personal than that, wash your hands, and often, and don't touch your face. Well, we're used to touching our face, so we have to be more aware of that, so that we can lessen the number of times that we touch our face, and kind of get out of that habit. So it's something that's going to be different. Yeah. It's not going to be back to normal. If it goes back to normal, then it's going to be some time down the road, whatever it may be. But it's a new normal that we'll get to. But in whatever way that we worship God, and that He ministers to us, and we minister to the people, it doesn't diminish God's power for us to be able to do that.
And I got a couple of good questions for you. With that being said, then watch it. I got a couple of good. Watch the first one. Where I got a question, a couple of great, not scenarios, but watch, here we go. Watch this. Now, for example, 6 feet apart. Okay, how is that supposed to happen when the tithes and offering come up? Mm-hmm. You got to go to the pan one way or the other, some kind of way. And the person that's taking the money got to get the pan also, and got to have it. And a lot of times, most churches, they go around and collect. Yeah, it can be done differently the way they can do that. But how do that come about? And watch this, most important. Now, here go the other one. Now, what happens, because, even being, led by the Spirit, and like you said, come together when you come to church, you're in that spiritual realm. Figure out what you got to do. But what happens when, how sometimes the Spirit takes over, and watch this, when the Spirit really takes over, you have no recollection for real or what you gonna do, or what you done, or who you get close to, who you follow. What happens then? Because see, that's when God takes over completely, totally. So are we not supposed to, I'm just asking, are we not supposed to let God take over? How do we do that? So what happens now? Because see, you gotta let God, because see, somewhere, you know, and I both know, there's sometimes when we get into the word and we preach and teach something, we don't even remember what we said because we got so into the spirit. We don't even know what happened for the biggest of it because it was all God. So now how do we explain to that point what we do?
When we're led by God, He doesn't lead us wrong.
Right.
That's good.
Right. That's true. That's good. That's good. And right. When we're led by God, He doesn't lead us wrong. But watch this. But God's way is not, we all know, God's way is not man's way. All these rules have been made by man. They're not being made by God. They've been made by man. Yes, they're for the safety, what they feel is the safety of us as people, but see, they're not doing it in the manner of for what they consider the fact of the people that consider themselves the people of God and get into the spirit. You're right. When God leads you, you can't go wrong. But what about the fact of, when it goes back to again, what about the fact of, though, that there are some churches, and I'm speaking this because I noticed too, there are some churches that, guess what? Let me don't mean to point none out, but I just say a few denominations that I know. Guess what? Like, for example, and it's hard for them to do it, because guess what? I done talked to some lately, and it's hard for them to really do it. I done talked to them since they've been out of church, and it's hard for them to do it. Let's just say, like say, for example, the apostolic faith, a lot of the Church of God in Christ, a lot of them, you got the different ones, like they operate, but because these people, they don't know how to not come together and allow the spirit to, because when the spirit take over, man, I'm telling you, they speaking in tongue, and they everywhere. So what I'm saying is that's what I'm saying. And you're right. Go back to it. Yes, when God leads you, He don't lead you wrong. But watch this. This the thing. Here we go. But you never know how God gonna lead you.
You don't know. And even if He leads you to do something that is outside of what man thinks you should do, I believe you're still, he will cover you with His grace and your mercy. So you still are not, He won't lead you wrong.
That's right. You're right. He'll cover you. But watch it. But go back to this. Now that's God, right? You're right. He'll cover you. But what about the law? Don't care nothing about that. You don't have law. They really don't care nothing about that and your faith in what God told you to do. They really don't care. All they want you to do is that follow the guidelines and the rules. So how do now God He ain't gonna lead you wrong, and He gonna keep you. He gonna take care of you. But guess what? I know pastors that, guess what? If God led them, they say God led them to do, because a few have been locked up since it's been happening. They say God told them to go ahead on and have the service. Now, who to say it wasn't the truth? That God didn't tell them.
They got locked up for that?
Huh?
Did they get locked up for that?
Yes, they got locked up for. See, so now watch this. They said God told them to go ahead on and do what they was doing, and have service, but what happened? But they got locked up. So now that's what I'm saying. God's gonna take care of us. Yes, He is. But now what happens with the law and what they said? No matter how God take care of them. Now they come and they locking folks up. Folks they say God told me to do it. And guess what? Just because they got locked up, that don't necessarily mean God didn't tell them to do it. But what happens to these people that when God lead them to do something, and then watch this, just so happen, here go the law, whatever, they in there, they come in, and they want to lock this person up, although God told them to do something, although we know God's going to take care of us. So, I mean, again, I say, it's different, because man don't care about what God told you when it comes to the law. And yes, the Bible says we should obey the laws of the land. But on the other hand, guess what? There are some things that, guess what? Because God is God, we end up doing out of ordinary, unexpectedly, because that's how God is. He's an unexpected God, and He have us. Sometimes we do. You be like, whoa, Well,
now there's also a thing though on the Bible that says that we have to obey man's laws too, as long as those don't conflict right, with what God's commanded.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. See, that's why I said, what if God told you to do something and it's against the laws of the land? Because God is God. So
but
God
I think
rules
one thing we need to make sure we do is, and I know this from as being a pastor, and I'm talking to a pastor, and I'm talking to another person who might as well have that title. Just because we feel like I think this is the right thing, that does not mean that God told me to do it. And there are two totally things with that. And I think pastors have just gotten onto a really bad habit. This is what I think God wants to happen. This is my opinion. So God told me to do it. Well, that's two different things. You can't say that. And I seriously don't know that God told that one guy that I had heard through the news. And so it's just something I heard. There was a pastor that decided to go ahead and have church, and 67 of his members, and the members was only like 100, if I remember right, 67 out of 100 now came down with COVID. Now, I seriously don't know that God ordered, I want you to have this service, so 67% of all the people are going to get this disease in a week. I don't know that was a God-inspired idea.
Right.
I'm not saying it wasn't.
And even if we don't come to corporate worship, that the movement has been to do it online, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Facebook, or whatever it may be. The power of God can still be felt through those mechanisms, in those types of services, even though you're not in one body, or if you're not coming together at one place. So healing can go forth still, even over the radio, even through a television broadcast. And I've even I've heard of, matter of fact, I heard this one particular pastor that has a small congregation, and they are online with their services, and people from other countries are tuning in to it, and so they're reaching more people with their online services than what they would have with just staying in the congregation, staying in the church house itself. So it's enabling congregations to spread the word of God even more, and without having the need to physically go out and do missions work, and with that expense, especially of the smaller congregation that may, not have that capability of doing so. So
I
get your point, Charles. Absolutely, brother.
Another great question would be, and you're right, Pastor Stern, watch this. And then this is another great question and you're right. Even since then, with the internet, people have been rich that would never been, they're reaching people that have never been rich before. They wasn't able to reach before. We'll say, I'll make sure I use the proper language in English. So, but my thing about it is that what happens after this is all over? Is it just a show for these people? And I know some people probably keep doing it, but what happens, and I believe God's going to allow it to happen, what happens when church normally finally get back to the norm? Because guess what? God is in charge. He's in control. And that's why man haven't been able to do nothing with this yet. It's when God get ready in just a little while. And I keep saying a little while because nobody knows when a little while is. But in just a little while, God will just said, and everything to be back at peace. He did it so many times and so many times before, even in the Bible. He did it so many times to where there was things, foreigners came in the land. And watch this. And they was out of the norm. We didn't get to experience because we weren't in that time. But those people after that, watch this, a great one. Even the Israelites, the Hebrew, watch it, even them, look what they went through, and even had to stand in the wilderness. And matter of fact, a lot of them in the wilderness was, guess what? Their disobedience. But they went through some things because of some things that happened out of the norm, and they had to leave and get away from the places. But in the same token, it finally got to a point to where, watch this, those those things that weren't of the norm, they got a chance to escape them once they crossed over, the Red Sea and got to the other side. Things got back, watch this, we all know, to the norm, because they went to doing the same things that they was doing before, work chipping and idolizing, golden calf, different things. So I'm just saying, it's going to come a point to where it's going to get back to the norm again. So what I'm saying is that what's going to happen with them people that saw church as a social media thing, and they don't get that anymore like they was expecting it.
You mean those that are attending it, or those that the leaders that are administering the service?
Well, actually both, because watch this, we both know that once to get back to the norm, and I believe it'll get that one day because God is in control and in charge. Mm-hmm. Once to get back to the norm, even with the pastors and the leaders or whatever that's been having this opportunity, this extra time to do this on the internet, they won't have as much time to do that, if any, because they were so busy at first. And a lot of them was busy doing, a lot of us was busy doing nothing, and not doing, but there's going to be so busy until now, these people that they had time for before, they ain't got time for no more. Because guess what they're going to do? Now I need to focus back on my congregation that's here.
It is a time for people to realign their priorities. But just in a way that, before COVID, people were holding services online and broadcasting the service on television and doing things. That's still going to happen even afterwards. And with people that weren't doing it before, mm-hmm. some are going to continue to do it afterwards.
Right.
So I think it's going to broaden their work in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, because if you think about it, I kind of see it as this was a opportunity for churches and the religious community. It was an opportunity for us to step into unknown places that we never stepped before. We were mm-hmm. forced to change so much. And in the midst of that, there was a lot of benefits. Like in our church, our attendance has gone up so much. It's crazy. We've now, like I think Sterling was saying, we're reaching people in other countries. I mean, that didn't happen before. And now all of a sudden people are, a couple of weeks ago, I got like 7 different phone calls during the week just to see if I was okay. I've never had anybody ever really call me during the week just to check on me, see if I was okay. I had 7. And somebody said, we should have been doing this whole time. We should have always done
exactly.
it. And I think it's just opened up a lot of great opportunities that we should have probably had under our belts as church leaders and as faith community. We should have probably been doing a lot of that. So
it's a realignment of priorities.
Going back to normal, I don't know that we should. I think we need to keep up some of the great things that we can't do now, some of the things that we lost that were great, like meeting together, but we should also keep some of the other stuff that we've now learned.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I disagree with that, to a degree, because, you said that I don't think we should go back to the norm. Yes, we should go back to the norm, but we just should add the other stuff to it to enhance it. Because watch this. If we don't go back to the norm, then we're going to still be being somewhat disobedient to what the word of God says. Now, because we just sit here and quoted, there's some things that the Bible said. Yes, it says obey the laws of the land. But watch this. It also says, and you were saying don't go back to the norm, but it also says, forsake not yourself to fellowship with one another. That don't mean, that means come together in unity. So what I'm saying is that, so I think that when you say, I don't think that we should go back to the norm. Yes, we should go back to the norm, because that's a necessity. It's needed, because guess what? There are going to be some people that we need to go back to the norm for, because guess what? Although as many as came, to y'all church that you didn't have. Ministers came to our church that we didn't have, and to Sterling Church, where other church they've came to. Watch it. As many as has came, guess what? There's so many that's still lost and haven't came. And those are the ones that, guess what? They ain't wanting to hear it. They ain't caring about this. They don't want to see nothing on no internet about no church. Guess what? Them gonna be the ones that we, as the people of God, compel us. We are compelled. We are compelled to go get them.
Let me clarify then what we mean by not going back to the norm. Yes, coming back to a fellowship and corporate body. Yes, we're going to do that. You know, that's a part of us. As human beings, we want to be a part of each other, and we need that. Some people that are isolated are experiencing the effects of depression, just the fact of being isolated. So yes, it's not to say that, no, we're not going to come back to in-person worship, but some of the things that we have done over the years, some of the things that we have picked up over the years is not necessarily what we need to do, you know. And as we said, it's a realignment of priorities. What is our priority? We have, we talked about being so busy in our lives that, you know, sometimes we don't have time for God in our lives. So this is a time that has given this is a period that's given us time that's, okay, Lord, what is most important in our life? What is most important, what you want me to do? How should we carry about the business of the kingdom work? And so that's not to say that not going back to the norm is not going back to what's important, but it's a time where you can trim the fat. It's a time where you can lay aside those weights that can so easily beset us. And so because there's some things that, you know, will get us off target and off of what God wants us to go. So yeah, it's not to say that we are not going to do what we need to do or supposed to be doing. Right. When we say that.
Yeah, and I agree with even with my brother, Mr. Callies, what he was saying, pertaining what he just said, and like I said, but the thing about it is that but on the other hand, like I said, when he was saying, the fact of that we really well, first of all, we have to understand some things of the word, and when you say things, and we're on here especially. So when we say things on here, we got to make sure, as we just done, we got to make sure we explain them so people can understand them. Or when you say them, you got to say them exactly the way they really need to be said, because some people won't get the same understanding that you may get from it, I may get from it, Mr. Callies may get from it. So you got to make sure you say them that way. So, because people they ain't gonna go back to the norm. Because guess what? Some people can't wait to go back to the norm. And watch this. No matter what it is, whether it's pertaining to church or whether it's pertaining to things of the world. Guess what? They're waiting. I'm hearing people. I don't hear people in the store, and even people I know. Some people conversation. Well, I can't wait till they open the club back up so I can go and turn up. That's their norm. And see, they can't wait for them things. So that's why I'm saying these things, because you got so many different people waiting to get back to the norm. So it's going to be hard for real to not keep some of the norm in there. That don't necessarily mean that all of it is right. We all know that. No, it's not. Because there are some things that, like Minister just said, guess what? They have taken our focus off what God really needs us to do, because they have caused us to detour, and veer off on the wrong exits and get into and stop at the wrong spots. But in the same token, I think that if we take the norm and make it better, get rid of the stuff that we don't need, but take the norm and make it better, and because watch this, I believe this was truly needed, because, like you said, it can cause people to come together that would have never came together, from atheists to as Mama would say, holier than thou folks, to the church folks, and to the worldly folks. You done had folks to come together that you would have never, they would have never probably came together at all, in a way of communicating. I mean, not necessarily in in person, but in
Right.
communication, they wouldn't have never came together, even listening to some things that they really didn't have no other too much of another choice but to listen to. That normally, had this not happened, they wouldn't even listen. They wouldn't even cared about them. They wouldn't have cared about that. That wouldn't even been knowledge to them. They wouldn't have cared to know nothing about self quarantine or spend some time with your family, because most other people, they didn't have time to spend time with their families.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have time. Even watch this. Even myself at times, I would find myself so busy, I didn't even have a lot of time that I should have been spending with my wife. And I know some other folks probably contest to that too, because you're so busy, you're so unconscious about it, because you think what you're doing is the right thing and it needs to be done. You forget about, guess what? But there's your wife, and she needs your time. God, first of all, needs your time first. And then there's your wife, she needs your time. And then there's some other things that God wants us to do, so that we can continue to compel people and be an example and not an exempt, so people really understand what it's really about. It ain't about working forever. The Bible said work while a day.
Great point, Charles. Great point, brother. Well, I'm sorry we're out of time. Sterling, any other last comment there?
I enjoyed it. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we do need to, like I said, realign our priorities and to hear from God.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
So that we can be better prepared to work in the kingdom and serve His people.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Sterling, for being my friend, coming on here and having a real heart-to-heart conversation. Thank you, Pastor Charles, of course, for speaking honestly from the heart and getting to talk about some real topics. And thanks to Church Health for getting together all those church leaders to come up with a cohesive idea, structure of a plan of how we can get back to things and how do we deal with this. So I want to thank Church Health for that. And I'll thank you viewers for watching. So you've been watching Two Pastors and a Guest. It is Friday. So I hope you have a wonderful and blessed weekend. We will not be airing any other shows, but you can check out our shows right here on over the weekend, that is Friday and Saturday, Sunday. So come and check out our shows. You can always just hit on Facebook or YouTube, go look at the ones that have been there in the archives, and you can see a ton of great stuff. But we will see you again on Monday at 7 o'clock with another great show. And if you remember, like the page, share it with your friends, and we will see you next time. Bless you, everybody. Have a great day.
We got Monday, Dr. Chris Cooper, right?
Oh yeah, Dr. Chris. Oh yeah.
What is he going to be talking about?
So Dr. Chris Cooper. This is the one about the gardening, right? So gardening expert. All right. Dr. Chris Cooper, gardening expert. He is the man when it comes to UT. He's a master gardener. He's been on a ton of TV shows, but we're going to have him right here on our show. So you guys come out of the woodworks. Give us some of your gardening questions. So glad you brought that up, Charles. Give us some of your gardening questions. Give us something that is working or is not working where you are, and we will see if we can't get you a live audience there with the Dr. Chris Cooper. And so we will see you on Monday. Thank you again, Sterling.
Thank you
so much. Appreciate you. Yes.